All right guys, welcome to Choose FI TV. Today we're gonna be talking about groceries. And what I did to put this together is actually go through my fridge and look at everything that we've bought over the last, I don't know, honestly, probably close to 90 days, because there are a lot of recurring items. I started with this tagline that basically, of the 40,000 items that are available in your grocery store, there's about 40 that won't make you fat. It's incredibly close to the truth. And today I wanna show you what almost every single diet that works actually has in common. There's a lot of incentive for the people who put these in diets together to make them more complicated than maybe they really need to be. And it just doesn't have to be that bad. So today we're actually gonna dive into the honestly 20 or 30 different ingredients that you can immediately switch out and put on your shopping list and start winning at this, this game of your personal health and frankly, life. Now, in the last video, I showed you some of the ingredients that I use to make these smoothies, and I'll do a separate smoothie video, but I wanted to first start out with this slide and just show you guys, what actually goes into these smoothies. And I have 3 or 4 that I kind of always go back to, and I'm at the point now where I don't even really rely on a recipe. I just kind of go to my favorites. And as I set up for you and as I put in the video that is being shown right now, it's just a basic couple ingredients. You start almost every smoothie with a type of liquid. And for us, we don't really drink a lot of dairy products, but we do coconut milk and almond milk, which give probably more flavor and less stomach upset. So that's usually our baseline. On top of that, this is when we're gonna put something like our protein powder. So we go ahead and add 1 to 2 scoops of protein. Usually if I make 2 servings at a time, 1 for myself, 1 for my wife. So it's gonna be 2 scoops of protein. And then from there, we're gonna maybe put a banana, some peanut butter in, some kale. And if you really wanna add something to switch it up a little bit, maybe a little bit of kiwi. I was shocked at the tartness that it adds to the smoothie. Is amazing. Another smoothie that we'll do, and we'll talk about it separately, is a little bit more fruit-based. This has a little bit of fruit in it, but mostly it's a great way to shovel down almost 2 cups of vegetables. Really, really incredible. The only other 2 ingredients is the peanut butter and the whey protein that I just addressed. And they add some really good fats, some really good protein, some really good flavor. I mean, this is basically making up 1/3 of the meals of my day. So I have a smoothie almost every day, maybe every other day. And the cost is probably right around $2 once you add everything in. Keep it very simple, doesn't take long to make, and it's going to keep you full. It's gonna give you very, very high quality ingredients. It's a good strategy. What I wanted to point out though, I wanted to use peanut butter as an opportunity to talk about labels. And in particular, you need to start looking at them. But what I'm showing you in this next slide is 2 all-natural peanut butters. Now, if you have been in the fitness community, health community for any period of time, you will have heard that if you're gonna get peanut butter, natural peanut butter is the way to get it. And I assumed that once I chose natural, I was doing the right things. But I picked up the one on the right that you're seeing there from Aldi's. The one on the left is the one that I used to get at Costco. I had started doing more and more shopping at Aldi's recently, and I just picked that one up because they had it. And I was like, oh, natural peanut butter. I did not read the label. My first mistake. Let's go ahead and first take a look and see what the Kirkland's, which is from Costco, what that peanut butter has in it. And basically, if you look at it, it is, wow, peanuts and sea salt. That's amazing. That is 2 ingredients in that peanut butter, and it's an incredible value, frankly. Next, let's take a look at the one from Aldi's. Oh, wow, what's this? Peanuts, cane sugar, palm oil, salt, and molasses. And that's in an all-natural peanut butter. That is not what we're looking for. Less is more. I think what you're gonna find overall is we're looking for simplicity. We're looking for simplicity with our ingredients. What you're not gonna see on this shopping list that I'm sharing with you right now is anything that says diet, like Diet Coke, anything that says fat-free or low-fat next to the chips, anything that says Weight Watchers on it, that's just prepackaged for your convenience. And I think marketing really, really tapped into the golden goose with this whole diet phase that everybody is confused, and that confusion allows them to sell products. And so anytime you see the word diet or fat-free, they have to substitute these ingredients with something. Maybe they use more sugar, maybe they use more preservatives, maybe they have to use something in order to replace that taste that you get from fats. And I think honestly, at some point, it just overwhelms your body's ability to process this food. I don't know a single individual that got thin drinking Diet Coke. Like that was the giant secret to life, that they shoved off the regular Coke and they just made the choice to go with the diet version instead. I'm sorry guys, it doesn't work. You need to be drinking water. That stuff is straight sugar. If we were to take just a regular Coke and evaporate it all off, you would probably have 1/3 a cup of sugar. I think they estimate that the average American goes through like 150 pounds of sugar over a 1-year period of time. We are killing ourselves slowly with our diet. So the rest of these slides are all dedicated to just the simple, not expensive foods that you can buy, put on your grocery shopping list, get week to week, and totally crush, your wallet and also your waistline, as indicated by the hashtag skinny waist fat wallet. Let's keep going. What I wanted to talk about is fats. Fats have been villainized in our society. And as my co-host Brad likes to say, I think the worst part about fats is actually the name fat. If it were called anything else, it might actually be called the elixir of youth. Fats are used for hormone development. They're used for cardiovascular health. They're so powerful that we actually package it and sell it as a supplement. And I'm not saying that you can get away with all fats. There are fats that screw this up, but the natural fats, the one you find out in nature, are not bad for you. So here's a list of kind of the 5 fats. This is where I try to get most of my fats from. I'm actually fine with bacon. This is a saturated fat, but in moderation when you're having 1 serving in the context of not having a whole lot of other fats in your diet, totally fine. We just talked about the peanut butter a second ago. The remainder of my fats come from almonds, chia seeds, avocado oil, actual avocados, olive oil, cottage cheeses. I don't worry about fats. They don't scare me at all. When you're picking from these healthier fats that we've discussed, and fats that you can find in fish could also be included in this. I've never really been a big fan of fish, but certainly they would be included in this particular section. I need to start eating more fish. That's more of a me thing than a you thing. You should eat more fish, but don't fry it. I mean, just put a little olive oil on a pan, saute it up if you need to, but everything within reason, right? All right, let's talk about nuts for a second. There's got to be a better way to say that. Let's talk about deluxe mixed nuts. Any better? No? Okay. Well, anyways, I love the honey roasted peanuts. I love the salted mixed nuts that come with the pistachios, the walnuts, the peanuts. This is kind of a proceed with caution item. So just because I said fats are good for you doesn't mean that you can have unlimited amounts. And the problem is when they're roasted and salted like this, although yeah, 100% all day long, you could have your handful of 10 to 20 nuts and be great. It's a fantastic way to get your fats in. Fats are very calorically dense and you should just keep that in mind. So if you ate the entire jar of these, yeah, you're gonna way exceed your caloric input that you could possibly use for the day. And at some point, your body will start storing fat. One thing that we don't wanna do is lose our own built-in sense of self-control. And items that are heavily salted like this, they can do that. So just something to be aware of. All right, next I wanted to talk about vegetables. And we mentioned the kale with regards to the smoothies, but basically, we need to start shoveling vegetables into our system. And a lot of us, because we've gotten so used to just eating whatever's there, whatever's convenient, frankly have forgotten how to eat vegetables. That's really what it comes down to. And we don't like the taste. We've forgotten that it actually tastes good. The smoothie that I mentioned earlier is a great way to start shoveling green foods into your system without having a clue that they're even there. It works for kids too, I promise. But aside from that, we just want to start using them in really every aspect of our life. So going through the list of these, spinach and greens, I don't do a whole lot of salads. I just am not a big fan of the taste. I try though, just because I want to start incorporating more salads into my life. Your taste buds do change over time, especially if you force this, on them. But aside from that, vegetables that I do actually like, bell peppers, red bell peppers taste incredible. They actually taste way better than green bell peppers. I don't know why when people talk about bell peppers, they're even thinking about the green ones because the red ones are actually sweeter, way, way sweeter, much better. I cut those up in eggs to include those. Carrots, not a huge fan of. My wife loves them. I eat some of them, but they should be included in this. Eggplant, which my wife is from Zimbabwe, she calls those aubergines. I don't even know what that word means, but anyways, eggplants, this can be an amazing substitute for actually a lot of pasta-based dishes. Eggplant can be sliced into very thin pieces. It can actually be used to make a vegetable lasagna. You can experiment with this stuff, but we need to start slowly moving away from all of these heavily processed foods and start incorporating more vegetables into our life for so many different reasons. Because of the low caloric nature of these items, it's nearly impossible for you to blow it on a calorie basis based on these foods. And you're more than welcome to try. Frankly, go for it. Absolutely go for it. What you'll find is by spending all of your energy consuming these items, you basically run out of energy to consume the ones that are not as good for you. So you're just not going to be craving as much if you're filling up your day with these. One tip that I have, especially for some of the denser vegetables like sweet potatoes, onions, broccoli, that sort of thing, is to roast them. One thing that we'll actually do is take all of those, chop them up, quarter them, dice them, and we will then put a little bit, we'll make a mixture of usually like olive oil, balsamic vinegar, salt, pepper, maybe some oregano, some red pepper. We'll make this little bit of dressing, and then we'll pour that dressing over them, shake them up in some sort of Tupperware, roast them at 400 degrees Fahrenheit for somewhere in between 30 to 40 minutes, depending on how much is in there. And you will bring out all the natural sweetness of those items, and works for carrots as well. So let's go ahead and talk about carb sources while we're doing it. One thing that you've noticed is I really haven't covered a whole lot of carbs, like while I'm on this diet, specifically while I am trying to lose this weight. I cut out the bread, I really do. I cut out all the white bread, all the whole wheat bread, all the rolls, all the desserts. Like, that's just not on my radar. If I am going to get a fix from something, I just notice, and we'll talk about this later, we'll talk about kind of strategies for getting through sticking points and why we tend to blow it, how we blow it when we just screw up our diet and go downhill. But I know for multiple reasons that carbs are what just decimate my ability to make forward progress. And so while I would be perfectly fine if I'm just trying to maintain my weight to have some bread here and there, I tend to think of bread more as a dessert item as opposed to a staple that's needed in my diet. So when I'm trying to pursue this sort of aggressive weight loss, I basically cut out all the extremely processed carbs. When I'm gonna have carbs, I will get them, and I do have them, but they come from vegetables, and specifically from the sweet potatoes that I'm listing here. A couple little disclaimers though. I do sweet potatoes in the way either by themselves, just microwaved or softened in the oven, or I will do them roasted, as I mentioned. I do not, I no longer will get them, slather them with butter, slather them with cinnamon and brown sugar and marshmallows. That's kind of out. We need to go and enjoy the sweet potato for the taste of the sweet potato. That's kind of my takeaway here. Let's go ahead and talk about protein now. So protein, we've talked about fats, we've talked a little bit about carbs and minimizing them. Proteins, what are we doing? With proteins, most of mine actually is coming from poultry. And this isn't necessarily intentional, it's more of an observation looking back, but eggs make up the vast majority of the protein that I'm getting. There's a little bit of bacon with those eggs, so I have a small amount of pork there. Chicken breast are another huge source of protein for us, and then ground turkey, and to some degree, lesser degree, ground chicken. That is 90% of the protein that I eat. Steak, if we have it, honestly, it's a dessert. It's something that we're gonna have maybe once a month, once every 3 or 4 weeks. It's not something that we consume a ton of. And you don't have to make the exact same choices that we're making, but I will say that if poultry ends up being a large source of your protein, very, very inexpensive. I know at least in Richmond, in this area of the country, you can get eggs at Wegmans for 58 cents a dozen right now. But even if you were to pay 2 or 3 times that, up to $2.99 a dozen, it's still not a lot of money for a lot of protein. Protein also can come from supplements, so we pointed the protein shakes that were going in the smoothie. Peanut butter has a lot of protein, and I'm very interested in talking to some vegetarians to see how they do this, because you do need to have a high protein diet. It doesn't need to be as ridiculously high protein as maybe is being marketed to you by some of the bodybuilding communities, but in order to preserve muscle and lose fat, you do need to keep that protein intake high. With the protein, I wanted to show you guys a couple other things. So at Costco, if you have access to a Costco, and I'm sure there's an alternative in other places, I wanted to show you one extra tip I have, because sometimes you're on the road, and that is these bad boys right here. This is great. 30 grams of protein, 160 calories, some vitamins and minerals. Am I getting my multivitamin? I couldn't tell you that I'm not. But sometimes convenience is an important part of this. And these weigh in at, I think you can get 18 of them for somewhere around 20 bucks at Costco. That is $1.20 a serving or less. That is an incredible value for an easy way to get 30 grams of protein in on the go. So there are even some convenience items that you can use. And occasionally I have one of these. especially if it's something where you're on the road and you need some safe foods that you can latch onto. I think as we're talking about the convenience type protein, this would probably be a good place to discuss some other convenience type items that I have enjoyed. One of my go-tos, my absolute go-tos for filler items that are pre-packaged and can add some bulk to a meal are actually refried beans. Gonna be a little bit high in sodium, but just as a staple of your diet with maybe scrambled eggs and bacon, if you need some extra calories or want something extra to keep yourself full, refried beans are a great choice. There's a couple other that I've actually found at Costco that are incredible. I think they price out around $1.50 a serving, somewhere in that range, but really, really good. Made by a company called Tasty Bites. They have two that I'm thinking of. One is Madras lentils, Madras, I may have said that wrong. And the other one is Tiki Masala. Both of them are amazing. Both of them featured in the picture here, but they are our kind of go-tos when we need a little extra something just to add some bulk to a meal, or maybe as a meal in and of itself, maybe just due to time constraints. They're not gonna screw you up, so it's totally, totally perfect. Now this brings us really to something that I think is the most understated single ingredient that people just are not talking about, and it is very, very powerful, and that is beans in general. I don't think the average person is getting nearly enough of. So if you can get away with refried beans and it won't screw you up, what are the implications when you just can make your own refried beans from scratch? And what I'm featuring here is the Instapot. There are a couple things that come to mind. You can make refried beans from pinto beans or black beans. And you could also, if you want to do something very interesting, you could do some really cool stuff with chickpeas. I think they're called garbanzo beans, so that might be something to look into as well. When you're making your refried beans from scratch, an Instapot is a great way just to go from a dry bean to having the bean completely made within, a half hour to an hour. That really, I think in the past, historically, one of the things that always kept me from using more beans in my diet was, one, the canned beans kind of seemed like a cop-out, and two, that overnight rinse or soak really just wasn't doing it for me. The Instapot has changed all of that, and it makes it very easy if you want to make your own refried beans to do so, and you can find your own recipes. But honestly, just working beans into a lot of different meals can be a great choice. I tried putting them in a smoothie once. Too extreme, but you're gonna have to find the balance that works for you. All right, now I think it's time to go ahead and talk about alcohol. I'm gonna be very honest with you. Beer is not a huge part of my life just generally, so this is easy, but that's convenient for me because beer will slow you down. I don't think there's any way to get around it. They do call it a beer gut, right? I mean, it's a waste of calories because your body doesn't know how to use it. It's a toxin that your body clears. It's very likely going to be, I don't know if potentially it lowers inhibitions, increases appetite, makes you more lethargic as your liver is clearing those toxins. I don't really have anything against beer. I really don't. I'm very happy to have several beers myself. I enjoy it in a social setting, but when you're trying to lose the type of weight that we're trying to lose in a short period of time, there's really not much room for it. I mean, you're more than welcome to have a beer or two, but just do it in the context of this is something you aren't willing to give up and you're willing to put maybe more work in, maybe be even more hardcore, maybe exercise more to make up for it. For me, since it's not a huge part of my life to begin with, it was very easy just to cut it. And it makes everything that we're doing just a little bit easier. So I will say though, that doesn't mean you have to be completely dry. I have found, and I'll give credit to Tim Ferriss in the 4-Hour Body, his book for this, that wine, in particular red wine, like Cabernet Sauvignon that I have mentioned here, doesn't slow me down at all. All the things that I said about beer really don't seem to apply to that. I can still hit my weight loss goals almost without fail, and I could have up to 1 to 2 glasses of red wine. Again, maybe don't push this. You don't necessarily, if it isn't a big factor in your life, don't take this as me saying you need to have 1 to 2 glasses of red wine every single night. What I'm saying is, if this is a big deal for you and you're cutting out beer but you're looking for a substitute, you could probably get away with a glass or 2 of red wine 1, 2, 3, 4 nights a week. It's not going to screw you up on this particular diet. I hope that the balance that has to be individualized for every single person, you can kind of, find that perfect center for yourself. There's no hard rules with this, but I will say that it's gonna be more difficult to get the results if you're trying to hold on to beer as a staple in your diet. It's just, yeah, you're fighting a battle uphill. Conversely, if you've been drinking beer for a long period of time and a lot of your weight is attached to that and you cut the beer, almost instantly, you're going to benefit. You're gonna have health benefits. You're gonna have weight loss attached to giving that up. So, I don't know. That's just kind of two ways to look at it. Glass is half full, glass is half empty. All right, last one. Everyone has a vice. My vice is coffee, and in particular, caffeine. I think caffeine is probably the last unregulated drug. And I'm sure there's a purist out there that could do all of this without caffeine. Fine, more power to you. It's not me. I love my coffee, and I love good coffee. So I've actually kind of taken it to that next level, and I do the whole pour over method, and I can do a video on that, but you can find plenty of them on YouTube where people will do a better job than I will. But coffee is an important part of my morning ritual, and I will have a second cup of coffee throughout the day, and I really try to have a good cup, but I drink it black. I'm not throwing creamer in this. I'm not throwing sugar in this. This is just kind of a good cup of black coffee is just absolutely perfect for me. So that composes most of the 40 or so ingredients that we get. And we probably didn't even cover all 40. There are certainly other things that I did not mention, but that's my mental framework. And what you'll notice is that I spend very little time walking up and down the aisles of the grocery store looking for something that says fat-free or diet-friendly. I'm not interested. I'm going for simple recipes, which I showed you in the video this past week. And I'm going for ingredients that I understand, that make sense. And I'm building holistically this model of 3 to 4 meals a day with these very, very healthy ingredients. And if I do this over time, it's forcing the outcome that I want. You don't have to make this too complicated. When you look at a diet that's gone off the rails, it's not because you ate too many leafy green vegetables, right? It's just not. It's probably because you snowballed. Let's say you were making good results and then you kind of felt like you were giving up on all these different things, and you had a really awesome Friday night out with friends, and then that snowballed into a bender over the weekend, and you just continued and you undid all your work and you got discouraged and then you just gave up. We will talk through some of that, because that has been my story many, many times, but not this time. So next week I'm gonna hop on the scale and I'm gonna show you guys exactly where I'm at and kind of do a little bit of an update. But this is working, and I appreciate you hanging in there with me for this journey, and I hope that you're seeing similar results to what I'm seeing. My one takeaway is, don't overthink this. I'm not. There's no secret ingredient, there's no secret strategy, and there's no single extremely expensive food that's gonna give you these results. Honestly, it's the less expensive foods that are going to cause you to be in the best shape of your life. You can get in shape for a fraction of the cost of all the ways that are marketed to you. So don't overthink this, keep it simple, and be encouraged, be motivated. You've got this. This is your year. All right, let's do it together. I'll see you next time.